My brother dated a girl in high school. Then a DNA test revealed she's our triplet sister we lost in the fire. What happened next destroyed him? Asterisk, they were the perfect high school sweethearts until a casual dinner with our adoptive dads uncovered a terrifying truth. My brother had unknowingly fallen in love with his own sister, and I had to be the one to break the news to him. Chapter 1. The birthday we all shared but never understood. Remember the way the lights in the orphanage flickered on our 6th birthday? That was the day our lives changed forever. The day our childhood ended. And the day we would all be separated by fate, only to be brought back together by a truth so unbearable, so unfathomable. It would shatter everything we believed about love, identity, and family. My name is Jonah. I have a twin brother named Aaron and a twin sister named Ella. Technically, we're triplets. But for most of our lives, we didn't know that. We were. Born on March 11th, I remember the date because we celebrated it every year at the orphanage. A stale vanilla cupcake. 1 balloon each. No gifts. And if we were lucky, one of the caretakers would smile instead of yelling that day. Our parents died when we were 6. Car crash. No next of kin. Just the 3 of us in the back seat of a station wagon on a rainy afternoon. The next thing I knew, we were in the county orphanage, under bright white hospital lights, being told that everything would be okay. But at WASN single quotes, 2 months later, Ella was adopted. A well-off couple from a neighboring city took her home one rainy morning. I remember standing at the glass window of the playroom, watching her wave goodbye in a new pink dress. She had no idea it would be the last time we'd see her. No one did. Aaron didn't cry. He never did. He just stood there, holding my hand, staring. That was the beginning of a lifetime of him hiding his pain behind silence. 2 years later, a gay couple came to the orphanage, Michael and Dean. They were warm, kind, and different. They didn't care that Aaron had temper issues or that I barely spoke. They looked at us and said, "We'll take them both." It was the first time in years that someone chose us. Together, we moved to a quiet neighborhood in Oregon, where Michael worked in it and Dean was a school counselor. Our new home had a garden, a fireplace, and a golden retriever named Max. For a while, life felt ... real. Like maybe we could belong somewhere. But the scars of abandonment don't fade easily. Especially not for Aaron. By middle school, Aaron was rebellious. He talked back, got into fights, skipped class. I, on the other hand, became the peacekeeper. I was the one teachers called when Aaron stormed out. I was the one who sat with him in the nurse's office when he'd punch a locker and split his knuckles. I always thought it was my job to protect him even from himself. Then came high school. That's where everything started to change. It was our junior year when Aaron met Ella. He came home from school one afternoon, grinning for the first time in months. "Bro, there's this girl in my photography class. I swear she's like, I don't even know. She's got this wild laugh and she listens to Nirvana and argues with the teacher about camera angles. And dude, she has our eyes. Like, literally. Same blue, same exact shade." I raised an eyebrow. "So, you found your twin?" Aaron chuckled. "Nah, man, but we do look freakishly alike." People kept asking if we were related. I thought he was exaggerating until I met her at a school play a few weeks later. She walked in wearing ripped jeans and a black denim jacket with pins all over it. Her blonde hair was pulled into a messy bun, and when she laughed, God, it echoed like wind chimes. When she looked at me, her face froze for a second. Her blue eyes scanned mine. Then she blinked, shook her head, and smiled. "You must be Jonah," she said. Aaron's better-looking twin. Aaron groaned. "You're not supposed to say that out loud," I laughed, but something about her stuck in my head long after the play ended. It wasn't just the resemblance. It was the connection. The three of us started hanging out more. Late-night diner runs, study groups, lake trips in summer. Ella became part of our world. Aaron and she were inseparable. And for the first time, my brother seemed happy, too happy. They dated all through junior year, into senior year, and even got accepted to the same college, Portland State. I chose to stay closer to home. But we talked regularly. Video calls, group chats, shared birthdays. They were the golden couple. Everyone loved them. But life has a cruel way of hiding truth behind beauty. The turning point came during Thanksgiving break in sophomore year of college. Ella joined us at our family dinner for the first time. Michael and Dean were ecstatic. They adored her. She helped set the table, made jokes with our dads, and even brought a pumpkin pie from scratch. Halfway through the meal, Michael asked, "So Ella, where are your folks?" Ella paused. I was adopted. I don't really know much about my biological parents. I grew up in Salem. My adoptive mom passed away a few years ago. My dad and I are distant. Dean glanced at Michael, then at me. My fork stopped mid-air. Aaron raised an eyebrow. Why two were adopted? Ella nodded. Yeah, since I was 6. The room went eerily quiet. Michael's face stiffened. What's your birthday? March 11th. Time stopped. I felt the air leave my lungs. Aaron froze. Our dads exchanged a glance that said more than words ever could. Dean cleared his throat. Ella, did your adoption papers ever say anything about siblings? She shook her head slowly. No. Why? Aaron looked at me. I looked at him. And we both looked at her. We were born March 11th, I whispered. She laughed awkwardly. Okay, that's weird. Aaron blinked rapidly. No, like Jonah and I were also adopted, from an orphanage. We lost our parents in a car crash. When we were 6, Ella's smile disappeared. What was the name of the orphanage? Michael asked. Ella answered. Same name, same place, same year. My heart pounded. Ella, you said you don't remember anything from before the orphanage, right? She nodded. Just pieces. A red car, rain. A woman screaming. That's all. Aaron whispered, I remember that too. Dean stood up. We need to talk. The next day, we ordered DNA test kits. We tried to laugh it off, tried to dismiss it as coincidence. But deep down, we already knew. 2 weeks later, the results arrived. Ella was our sister. My brother had unknowingly fallen in love with our own blood, and what followed destroyed him. Chapter 2. The fallout nobody was ready. 4th morning, the test results arrived. The world was still. No birds chirping. No wind, just the heavy thud of my brother's footsteps on the hardwood floor as he paced the living room. Our dad sat, side by side on the couch, hands clasped, silent. Ella sat in the corner with her knees pulled to her chest. Her phone buzzed, but she didn't move. No one did. Then my name lit up on my phone. 23andMe results available. I opened it, hands trembling. I didn't speak. I didn't have to. And stood over my shoulder reading the screen. DNA match, full sibling. Ellen 99.98% shared DNA. The phone slipped from my fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud that felt louder than a gunshot. Ella gasped. No, that can't be right. Aaron didn't move. He didn't blink. He just stood there like someone had ripped his soul out of his chest. Michael leaned forward. There's no mistake. These tests are accurate. Ella, you're their sister. She stared at the floor, whispering over and over, I didn't know. Aaron turned to her slowly. We were together for 4 years, he said in a low voice that shook. For years and not one person told us. Dean tried to speak. Aaron, this isn't anyone's fault. You were adopted. She was adopted. None of you knew. But we should have. He snapped. Someone should have told us. Where were the adoption records? Why didn't they tell us we had siblings? Les started sobbing. She covered her face and curled further into the corner. I walked over to her and put my hand on her back. She flinched. Aaron looked at me like I betrayed him. You knew this was a possibility. You were suspicious that night? I nodded slowly. I was, but I didn't want to believe it. Neither did you. He turned away. I feel sick. Michael stood. Aaron, just breathe. You didn't do anything wrong. But my brother didn't want comfort. He wanted to disappear. He grabbed his keys and stormed out of the house. We didn't see him for 2 days. The media didn't know. Thank God for that. But the silence within our family screamed louder than any headline ever could. Ella moved into a friend's apartment the same night. She texted me every day, apologizing, saying she never wanted to hurt anyone. I believed her. But I also couldn't look her in the eye without seeing the broken look on my brother's face burned into my mind. Aaron finally came home the evening of the second day, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled. He walked past everyone, straight, into his room and locked the door. Michael sighed. We should get him help. Dean nodded. I've seen this before. He's shutting down. I knocked on Aaron's door. No answer. I sat outside, talking through the wood for hours. He didn't say a word. Not until 2 a.m. I loved her, he finally whispered through the crack. I was going to propose next summer. My throat tightened. I know, man. I know. She's my sister. My sister, Jonah. I know. He opened the door. His face was pale, eyes hollow. I can't unlove her. Isn't that messed up? I wish I could just erase everything. Go back. I shook my head. None of this is your fault, but logic doesn't heal grief. And this wasn't normal heartbreak. This was something far deeper, far darker. It was betrayal by life itself. The next week, things only got worse. Aaron stopped going to class. He withdrew from school altogether. He deleted all his social media. He avoided family dinners. He wouldn't even walk Max, our dog, the one thing that used to bring him peace. Ella tried to reach out. She called me crying, begging to talk to Aaron. She said she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. She was in therapy now, too. Her whole identity had shattered. They told me I was an only child, she said through sobs on the phone. I grew up alone, thinking I had no one. Now I find out I have 2 brothers and one of them was the love of my life. What am I supposed to do with that, Jonah? I didn't have answers. No one did. I began to dig. Not because I was curious, but because I needed to understand how this happened. How the system could fail so badly. I filed requests for our adoption records. It took weeks, but when they finally came, the story they told was even more tragic than I imagined. We had been split up due to a clerical error. After the crash, we were registered under different case numbers. Ella was placed in temporary foster care, then adopted before her file was updated. By the time the mistake was discovered, it was too late. Her records were sealed and legally finalized. No one wanted to disturb the placements. We had been lost in paperwork, forgotten, and administrative oversight. The report said an oversight that nearly destroyed my brother. When I showed the report to Aaron, he stared at the pages blankly. So we were separated. Because of a typo? Basically, he laughed a bitter, cold sound. We're living in a tragedy written by interns. Therapy became non-negotiable. Michael and Dean found a specialist, someone who worked with complex trauma cases. Aaron started going twice a week. Ella found her own therapist across town. I went to I needed it more than I thought, because I hadn't just lost a sister I never knew. I'd lost my brother too. He wasn't the same. He barely spoke. He barely ate. He stopped playing music, stopped drawing, stopped living. I tried everything: games, road trips, movies. Nothing helped. Then one day, I found him sitting on the porch with a photo of Ella in his hand. Not a romantic photo, just a group shot of the three of us at the lake. I think I loved her because she reminded me of home, he said. What do you mean? He pointed to our eyes. I always wondered why we looked alike, why her laugh felt familiar. It was like my soul already knew her before I met her, because it did. I sat down beside him. I think I'll always love her, he said. You can still love her, I told him. Just differently now. He shook his head. That's the hardest part. I don't know how. Months passed. Aaron got a part-time job at a local bookstore. He started drawing again, dark sketches at first, then slowly, color returned to his art. He wasn't healed, not even close, but he was surviving. Ella came over for Christmas. It was the first time the three of us had been in a room together since the DNA results. She brought a handmade scrapbook, a photo album titled "The Family We Didn't Know We Had." We sat in silence, flipping through pictures of our parallel childhoods. 3 kids, 3 strangers. 3 siblings connected by blood, separated by bureaucracy, and reunited by the most painful twist of fate imaginable. At the last page, she had written, "Even though I was your sister last, I'll be your sister first from now on." Aaron cried, openly, honestly. Finally, they hugged. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't awkward. It was healing, real healing, the kind that takes months of silence, rivers of tears, and the quiet bravery to face pain head-on. Chapter 3. The interview request that changed everything. 6 months had passed since the truth came out. Since that fateful DNA test tore down the illusion we all lived in. Since Aaron stopped sleeping through the night, my brother went from soulmates to strangers bound by blood. Time had softened the sting, but not the scar. Aaron was going to therapy once a week, now instead of twice. He worked at a local bookstore where he'd found a weird sense of peace surrounded by words that weren't his. Ella was finishing her degree, majoring in child psychology. Of all things, maybe trying to understand herself through the stories of others. And me, I was the bridge between them. The quiet middleman. The brother to both. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, I got the letter. It was in a cream-colored envelope. No return address, just my name printed neatly across the front in black ink. Inside was a short letter typed professional, yet strangely personal. Dear Jonah, we've come across information regarding an extraordinary and deeply human story involving you, your brother, and your sister. We understand the sensitivity surrounding this matter, and we want to approach it with care and dignity. We're reaching out to you with an opportunity to tell your story on your terms, to give voice to what so many adopted children wonder about: identity, loss, connection, and truth. We would be honored to speak with you, your siblings, and your family, only if and when you're ready. Andrea Locke, Human Voices documentary series, read it 3 times before calling Ella. She answered on the first ring. Jonah. Did you get a letter? I asked. Pause, double quotes, yes, just now. From a documentary producer. Yeah, she sighed. What do you think? I didn't answer right away, because truthfully, I didn't know. That night, we gathered at the house. Aaron wasn't thrilled, but he came. We sat at the dinner table, the same place where the truth had first unraveled 6 months earlier. Michael read the letter aloud again. Dean folded his arms. They want to use your pain for ratings. Ella shook her head. They said we could tell the story on our terms. Aaron leaned back. Or they'll just twist it however they want after the cameras stop rolling. I watched the tension rise like smoke. Ella looked at Aaron gently. It could help someone, you know? Someone who grew up not knowing where they came from. Someone who feels alone. Aaron scoffed. You want to be a cautionary tale? Go ahead. But don't ask me to relive that nightmare on camera. It's not about being a cautionary tale, Ella said softly. It's about being honest. Real, about saying, this is what happened. It wasn't our fault. I looked at her, then at him. They weren't enemies, just two broken halves of a strange, sad whole. I cleared my throat. What if we did it together? Just one interview. No cameras in the house. Nothing too personal. Just the facts, the orphanage, the adoption mistake. How we found each other again. Aaron stared at his hands. Then he whispered, only if they don't mention the relationship. The room went silent. Ella nodded. Agreed. A week later, we met Andrea Locke. She was in her 40s, calm voice, sharp eyes. Wore a gray blazer and Converse sneakers. Not what we expected. But maybe that was the point. We met at a neutral studio just off campus. Simple setup. 2 cameras, 1 boom mic. One producer, Andrea, sat across from us in a circle. Me, Aaron, and Ella. She began gently. Let's start with your birthdays. All 3 of us said, March 11th. She smiled. Triplets. We nodded. Double quotes, what do you remember about your parents? Aaron and I shared a look. Not much, I admitted. Red car. The crash. Rain. Same, Ella said. I remember screaming. A woman's voice, Aaron added. I remember holding Jonah's hand. At the hospital, Andrea asked about the orphanage. We shared how Ella was adopted first. Then we were taken in 2 years later by our dads, Michael and Dean, about how we lived separate lives for a decade. Then she asked the big question. When did you realize you were all siblings? I told the story. Thanksgiving, the birthday coincidence. The DNA tests. Ella chimed in quietly. When I met Aaron, I just felt safe, familiar. I didn't question why. Aaron flinched, but didn't stop her. Andrea didn't press the romantic part. She respected the boundary. Asked instead, how did you cope after the discovery? Aaron answered, therapy. Hey. Lot of silence. I shut down. I hated the world for a while, Ella added. We all grieved, different things. The lives we thought we had, the people we thought we were. Andrea ended with a soft question. If you could say one thing to the version of yourself before this all happened, what would it be, Ella? You're not broken. You're just not finished yet. Aaron, don't trust comfort too fast. Sometimes it's a ghost in disguise. Me, family isn't about where you came from. It's who walks with you. Through the fire, we finished in under an hour. No tears, no drama, just raw truth. Andrea thanked us, promised to send the final cut for approval. And then we left. A month later, the documentary aired. It didn't go viral. It wasn't flashy, but it touched people. Emails poured in. Letters, messages from people who had been adopted. People who had reconnected with long-lost siblings. People who had made tragic mistakes but survived them. One message stood out. It was from a woman in Minnesota. I grew up adopted. Always wondered if I had siblings. Your story gave me the courage to search. Yesterday, I found my brother. We're meeting next week. We cried reading that. Aaron sat quietly and said, maybe it was worth it. Blah. Smiled. We're not alone anymore. We started attending small support groups, side-up teas, siblings reunited. Even couples who had unknowingly crossed family lines and had to start over. Aaron was invited to speak at a university. Panel on adoption. Records reform. He almost said no. Then he stood before 300 students and said, "I loved someone deeply. Then I found out she was my sister. I shut the world out. I thought it was over for me, but it wasn't. I'm still here. Now want to make sure no one else goes through what I did because a file got lost in a cabinet." Ella joined a nonprofit for foster youth. I started writing. Not fiction truth, our truth. One messy, uncomfortable human story at a time. That year, we celebrated our birthday together for the first time in a long time. We didn't do much. Just pizza, homemade cake, and a playlist we made when we were teenagers. Ella gave Aaron a sketchbook. He gave her a letter 3 pages long. Not romantic, not apologetic, just honest. She cried reading it. Then we sat in the backyard under fairy lights, watching Max chase fireflies. No regrets, no secrets, no pretending. Just 3 siblings, finally. Found? Final Chapter 4. The day she found the truth and finally set us free, we had finally started to live again. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Aaron was painting again, his work, raw and bold, now featured in a local gallery. Ella was thriving. In grad school, pouring her energy into advocacy for foster youth. And Jonah had started writing a book about everything we'd been through. Not to sell, not to make a name, but because some stories refuse to stay silent. We thought that chapter of our lives was closed, but the past has a funny way of knocking at your door just when you stop looking back. It was a chilly Sunday morning in February when Ella showed up at our front door holding a thick manila folder. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with something fierce clarity, maybe, or something close to anger. "I found her," she said as she stepped into the house. Aaron and I exchanged a glance. "Found who?" I asked. "Our caseworker from the orphanage. Her name was Brenda Carroll. She retired 10 years ago. I tracked her down through a social worker network online." She sat down and spread the folder across the dining table, the same table where we first learned we were siblings, the same table that had witnessed our heartbreak, our silence, our healing. She slid a document across to us. It was an official file, yellowed with age, marked with red stamps and handwritten notes in the margins. On the top corner, our names, Jonah, Aaron, and Ella Thompson. This, Ella said quietly, was the original reunification plan. After the crash, CPS intended to keep us together. That was the plan. The system knew we were triplets and wanted to keep us in a single foster placement. Aaron leaned in, eyes scanning the paper like it held the meaning of life. I felt my stomach twist as I saw the signatures and notes, decisions made about our lives by people who never met us. "But then what happened?" I asked. Ella pulled out another sheet. "Here's where it gets ugly." Apparently, Brenda was overworked handling 90 cases at once. She filed my paperwork under a different case number and checked a box that said no known siblings. Just a box. One click. One mistake, Aaron whispered. "No," Ella said, voice rising, "not just a mistake. This wasn't just carelessness. This was neglect." Brenda never followed up, never cross-referenced. The system had records matching dates of birth, photos, even a note from the hospital nurse that all 3 of us were brought in together after the crash. She tapped a photo paper clipped to the Fila blurry black and white image of us as children, hand in hand, wrapped in emergency blankets. They had this, and still split us apart. I felt rage. I hadn't known I was still carrying bubble to the surface. So they knew. They knew and didn't care. Ella nodded. I confronted Brenda. I drove 2 hours to her retirement home. At first, she acted like she didn't remember. But when I showed her the documents, she went quiet. Then she said something that made me want to scream. Aaron stared at her. "What?" Ella took a deep breath. She said, "You kids were young. You adjusted. It all worked out in the end, didn't it?" Aaron stood up so fast his chair screeched against the floor. She said that. Ella nodded, tears brimming. Like our pain was some kind of successful experiment. For a moment, the room fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the pounding in our chests. Michael and Dean walked in, having heard part of the conversation from the hallway. Dean placed a hand on Ella's shoulder. "What are you going to do with this?" She looked at all of us. "I want justice, not for revenge, but so that it never happens again. So that no one else has to wake up in love with their sibling or go to bed wondering why they feel incomplete for 20 years. We supported her every step of the way. Together, we filed a formal complaint with the Department of Family and Child Services. We submitted all the documents. Ella gave a recorded statement. Aaron provided therapy records. I sent in a portion of my manuscript, and for months, we heard nothing. Until the day we received an official letter in the mail. The agency had opened an internal investigation into Brenda, Carol, and similar mishandled cases from that era. The case made local news not about us personally, thankfully, but about systemic failures in adoption and sibling placement protocols. It sparked a review of hundreds of closed cases. Families were reunited. Mistakes were uncovered. Brenda was stripped of her pension. It wasn't much, but it was something. A small measure of accountability in a world where so often broken systems are protected more fiercely than broken people. And with that, it felt like a door finally closed, not slammed, not locked, just gently, finally shut. The past would always be part of us, but it didn't have to define us anymore. On our next birthday, we did something we'd never done before. We went back to the orphanage. It had been turned into a community center, now bright walls, new carpet, colorful murals. But the old bones of the place were still there. The playroom where we last saw Ella, the hallway where I clutched Aaron's hand as they took her away. We stood there, the three of us, grown but still those same kids deep down. And then we laughed, not because it was funny, but because we were still here, still standing. Still a family chosen not by circumstance, but by choice. That night, under a sky full of stars, we made a pact that no matter how life twisted or what truth came next, we'd face it together, as siblings, as survivors, as the family we were always meant to be. And so now, as I finish writing this, I want to leave you, the listener, the viewer, the person on the other side of the screen with this. Sometimes the world writes your story for you. Sometimes it puts you in a chapter you never asked to be part of. But you are the author now. You can edit. You can rewrite. You can heal. My brother once fell in love with our sister, not because he was broken, but because the system was. And yet, love didn't destroy us. Lies did. Truth saved us. And now, we live in it together. Not as victims, not as headlines, but as a family. Finally whole.